June in Port Galia is perhaps one of my favourite months in our community. The sea glistens with the midday sun, and the fishing is a real treat. It almost makes me happy. You see, although others may tell you different, I'm not all bad. Sure, I'm a grumpy fisherman a lot of the time, but I can be cheery if I feel like it, which, granted, isn't very often, but still, every now and then I can be quite a nice person to be around, if I want to be. Take William for instance. I know I can be a little ticked off with him at times when he's thoughtless or clumsy, but when he's helping me on my boat, and it's just us, my Sulky Salmon and the sea, it can be quite a pleasant experience. After all, William and Lester were my brother's boys, and when they lost their parents in the war, they came to live with me and my wife in Port Galia. And although I don't always show it like I should, I do care for them deeply. And spending that time with William is something I feel I owe to my war hero brother. I can recall a Saturday in the month of June that William and I were headed off in the Sulky Salmon to do some fishing together. Not for money, but just for fun. We made our way from the house down into the heart of the small village, and I walked into Mr. and Mrs. Davies' store with William by my side.
Good morning, Rodney.
Mr. Davies said with a smile from behind the counter.
Off to work again with William, are you?
Nope.
William replied happily, swinging a bucket full of ice beside him.
Auntie Patsy is making fish crumble, so we're catching the fish for it. We're just taking our poles and having fun.
Fun?
Mrs. Davies interjected with a laugh.
I didn't know you could have fun with that grumpy face you're always wearing, Rodney.
Janet?
I'm only stating a fact, Patrick.
I can have fun if I feel like it, Miss Davies, and today I'll have you know I feel like it. So William and I are going to go fishing together, guess what, for fun. And that's the size of it. Now, do you have any refreshments for a couple of fishermen like us? How about some beers?
Beers? Goodness, what would your brother say if he saw his son drinking beer?
Oh, I'm sure he'd want one too. We'd always have ginger beers together when he and the lads came over. Now, do you have some or not? Because we've got some fish to catch.
Yes, we do, and have another two on us.
But Patrick!
I'll pay for it, Janet. Now, you two have a good time. Stop by on your way back and let us know how you got on.
We'll do that. And perhaps if we catch enough, I can pay you back for those 2 ginger beers with a trout or 2.
That'd be nice, it's a deal.
Well, I shook hands with Mr. Davies and William put the bottles in his backpack and we made our way down to the port. It was one of those days when I was feeling unusually cheery. The sun was shining, the sky was clear, the ocean was gentle, and my boat had been freshly cleaned the day before. Everything was shaping up to be going my way, and even William seemed brighter than an anglerfish when it came to getting the boat ready to go. I can recall after we'd been out on the sea for about a few hours, with just our poles and a bucket of ice, that we'd caught not 1, not 2, but 0 fish. But instead of being grumpy and upset like the normal Rodney would be, I just decided to lean back on the fold-out chair on the deck and feel the sun shine down on me and the breeze sweep across the sea. William was lying down next to me until he suddenly piped up that he felt a bite on his line.
I've got one, Uncle!
He hollered, sitting bolt upright and winding his reel with all the strength his little muscles could muster.
I think it's a great one too. Help me, Uncle. I can't pull it in on my own.
Ah, yes, you can. You're good at tug of war, aren't you?
You know I am. I thrashed Lester at the Summer Sports Day last year.
Right, exactly. So just imagine Lester on the line and pull him right into the mud.
Right you are. Watch out, Lester. You're about to get dirty.
Ah, that's the spirit, lad. Just what I've been waiting to hear. Now pull him in head first.
I'll try. Come on. Get over the line, you big trout.
Well, I hope you're talking about the fish and not Lester.
Either works. Come on, stop struggling and let me catch you. Whoa!
William fell backwards and his rod flew out of his hands with a jolt. I put mine down and jumped for it and grabbed it by the end before the fish could take it with him into the deep blue, but I banged my head in the process. Oh, cranky crabs, that hurt! I exclaimed, rubbing my forehead with one hand and gripping the runaway rod with the other. Are you all right, William?
Yes, but I've lost the tug of war.
Well, maybe not. Now get over here and take the rod again. The stubborn fish is still pulling at the hook.
All right then. Thanks.
William took the rod and commenced to tussle with the persistent creature again, and I pushed myself up against the edge of the boat and continued to rub my forehead. I'd managed a good quail egg on it, which is Port Galia talk for a bit of a bump, and I took a chunk of ice out the bucket and wrapped it on a rag to stop the swelling. I watched as William tried to get the fish in, and he pulled and pulled it like his life depended on it. Keep going, Willie, I cheered rather weakly, patting the ice on my skin. You've almost got him.
I don't know, he's fighting hard.
Oh, he would do. He doesn't want to lose again like last year, does he?
I guess you're right. All right, come on and do your worst.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Why not?
They can hear you.
Oh, don't fool with me, Uncle. That's silly. Fish aren't listening to me.
Well, William should have listened to me, as it seems the big fish did in fact hear him and apparently snapped his line right off his rod. William flew back again, crashed into the deck chairs and landed in a heap amongst them.
Cranky crabs, that hurt.
He moaned, coining my phrase from before.
Oh, I think I might get an egg also. You were right. He did hear me, the smelly beast. And that was the first one all day. Blow it all.
Here, I said, tossing the ice in the rag on his lap. Use this. It'll help stop the egg and I'll try for another one.
What? Egg?
Ha ha ha! Ha ha! You think you're so funny, eh? Getting up and grabbing my rod, I cast it out once again whilst William nursed his head. The hook and bait flew into the air and dropped into the sea, and I stood quietly awaiting some movement in the water or any vibrations from the pole. It seemed odd to me that no fish were biting on such a nice day, with the water being so calm, and so I tried to toss some fish food onto its surface to attract them. But that didn't seem to be making any difference whatsoever. It didn't seem like the fish were hungry at all. After another disappointing 20 minutes or so, I was tempted to cast out my nets. But I couldn't be bothered with all that fuss, and by the time that I was getting less and less hopeful, I got even more and more hot and bothered. I think William could see my grouchiness making an appearance, and he suggested we throw in the towel and head home. I wasn't at all pleased, as I knew that I'd made a deal with Mr. Davies, and my missus was expecting some fish for fish crumble, and I was looking forward to it too. But it was nearly lunchtime by that point, and much to my dismay I took up the wheel and began to make my way to the shore. I was rather annoyed, and even the weather seemed to be joining me in my misery, as some grey clouds began to appear in the blue sky and cast ominous shadows on the water as we sailed over it. William sat, rubbing his head behind me, and I looked at him with a frown. Still got an egg, have you?
Yes, and it's a big one too. Blasted fish had to snap my line, didn't he? Why couldn't he have snapped yours instead?
Hey, I've still got an egg on my head from rescuing your pole, so it looks like we're even. I have to admit though, I'm not looking forward to telling Patsy that we haven't caught anything. She's probably already got the crumble and sauce ready for lunch. all she'll be missing is our blooming fish.
I know, and I'm starved. What a shame that such a nice morning finished with such awful results. Oh well, at least we've still got these spare ginger beers.
No, I'll have to give him back. We didn't catch anything to trade with them, so we can't have him.
But Mr. Davies said
I
that...
know what he said, I interrupted, steering the boat into the port. But I shook hands on the deal with him and I can't keep my end of it, so that's just how it's going to be. We'll give him back on the way home, alright?
All right then, I understand. I'll drop the anchor.
William did just that, and soon we were moored and steadied. We both climbed down onto the shore. Trudging up the sand and into the street, we both sauntered into the Davies store, and the bell rang to indicate our arrival.
Ah, hello again, Rodney. You don't look like you've got any fish. Did things not go as well as you'd hoped?
No, they didn't, Patrick. We didn't get a single fish.
But we got a few eggs.
Eggs? On the ocean? What are you talking about?
Oh, never mind that, Patrick. Here's the spare ginger beers you gave us. We didn't catch anything to trade them with, so I figure they belong to you again.
No, they're all paid for now. You keep them.
Really, Mr. Davies? May we?
Yes, of course. But if you don't mind me asking, Rodney, what's your wife going to use to make fish crumble, since you haven't caught anything?
Oh, I don't know. It might have to be vegetable crumble instead.
Vegetable crumble?
Vegetable crumble?
What? Is there an echo in here?
Sorry, Rodney, but it really doesn't sound very appetising.
Oh, I realise that, Patrick. But what can I do when they just start biting? I can't help that, can I? It's not as though a bunch of fresh fish are just going to come walking through the door and say,
Hello. How are you doing, Mr. Davies? Oh, hello, William. Jolly good to see you. Hello, Mr. Cole.
I looked down and Jack Doris was standing there with his sister and a whole bucket of fish and ice. I stared at them in amazement and he looked up at me with glee.
It's a good haul, hey, Mr. Cole. How did you both do? I saw you two from Galia Bay on your boat. Did you catch any big ones?
William, Patrick and I stood shocked and looked at him in disbelief. He seemed a little off-put by the staring and he cocked his head to one side in confusion.
What's the matter? Did I say something wrong?
Oh, no, sorry, Jack. We just can't believe you walked in at that exact moment. We were only just talking about how we didn't...
Oh, never mind that, Willie. Shush. Hey, Jack. You're not interested in selling those fish, are you?
Rodney, really?
Oh, you can shush your mouth. You're not the one who's going to be eating vegetable crumble. Well, how about it, lad? I'll pay you 5 shillings for him.
Oh, I don't know about that, Mr. Cole. This took me a whole morning to catch, you know. I think I could only give these away for, say, £1.
Jack, you can't charge £1 for a bucket of fish.
Yes, I can, and it took me a lot of effort to catch these. And you didn't help me either.
I was picking flowers for Mother.
Exactly. So I get to decide how much I sell them for. How's about it, Mr. Cole? £1 for my fish?
At first I thought I must have lost my marbles if I went for a deal like that. But remembering the idea of vegetable crumble, I reluctantly agreed and handed him the money out of my wallet.
Gee, thanks.
He said with a big grin and wide eyes.
Here's your fish. Mr. Davies, can I have some barley sugars?
What about me?
All right, you can have some too. Can we have 2 bags?
I reckon so. Well, it looks like you won't be having vegetable crumble after all, hey, Rodney?
Vegetable crumble?
Vegetable crumble? What's that?
Not very tasty, I said flatly, moving the conversation on quickly. Now, come on, William, let's get these home. See you at church, Patrick.
Yes, I'll see you at church.
Bye, Jack. Bye, Molly.
We both left the shop and William looked up at me and laughed.
You are going to tell Auntie Patsy that you bought them from Jack, aren't you?
Well, I mean, of course I
Uncle?
well, it's just,
Don't you remember the sermon the Reverend taught last week on lying? It's one of the Big 10, Uncle.
yes, all right, you're right. I'll tell Patsy within the next few days.
Uncle?
Fine. I'll tell her when we get back. Now come on, she'll be waiting on us. Well, you'll be pleased to know when we returned I did tell her what happened. And although it took a lot of getting over my pride, I did get that meal that I'd been looking so forward to and we had a nice glass of ginger beer each to wash it down with. And despite the fact I came away with £1 less in my wallet and an egg on my head, at least I didn't have to eat that vegetable crumble.
In this episode of Port Galia, we saw Rodney Cole and his nephew William have an eventful time fishing together on the Sulky Salmon. Not only did they both end up with a bump on their head, but neither of them caught a single fish, and Rodney was left with nothing to give to his wife for lunch. Until little Jack Doris happened along and ended up giving Rodney his bucket of fish, at a hefty cost. At this point, we saw Rodney was faced with a temptation to refrain from telling his wife he didn't catch anything, but instead make her believe the fish in the bucket were his haul. Well, thank goodness William stepped in and stopped him from doing so, because it's very clear in the Bible that God does not approve of such a lie, and we see that clearly in Ephesians 4:25, where it says to put away lying and for everyone to speak truth with his neighbour. This means that no matter what the situation, we should speak truth and never lie, because honesty is always the better option in the end.